I don't think we've done a great job telling the story of this brand. And there's so much good. And so the ability for someone, don't believe everything you read. But there's always truth within all of that.
The time you weren't CEO, I kind of went through and tried to pick out the toughest quote I could find to then kind of get your thoughts on it. September 2024, the Wall Street Journal writes, more than half a dozen former executives said Plank was responsible for much of the turmoil and complexity that he's now promising to clean up. In recent years, they say he foiled marketing plans put in place by others, pushed product ideas that flopped, blurred the lines between his brand role and that of the CEOs who succeeded him. Your thoughts?
What a crazy journey life is. And so everybody's got an opinion. And the reality from where people will feel are always going to be divergent. And so I don't like our stock price right now. Our shareholders sure don't like our stock price right now. What we're doing about that is creating seismic change. When I left the CEO chair at the end of 19, our stock was in a very different position. Coming back in, it was not quite the size where it is now. And the ambition we have is not looking and trying to point fingers, because this isn't about diagnosing the problem. Like, we know what the issue is. Purchase power is important for us. Making kids fall in love with us, making that 16 to 24-year-old demographic love UA is the number one ambition that we have. And the one thing about finding success, being able to crack to the next level, is that you're always going to have critics, especially when you have a public stock. It doesn't make anyone right, it doesn't make anyone wrong, but you have to listen to it. Some of the best advice that I've ever had was actually somebody who was in the public scene or the public picture. And I'd asked Jeff Bezos from Amazon. In 2014 or so, they were getting hit on all these same topics. You're a big company, you're in culture, and this isn't saying anything other than just what's some of the best advice you've heard of how to deal when people want to take shots.
And by the way, I can tell when even just reading that, it bothers you.
Well, any criticism is going to bother anybody. If you didn't, you weren't human. To find, I said, hopefully I can bring some of this to my next chapter of what it feels like. When you hear criticism, I said, what do you do? When all this criticism, they're always writing bad stories about you, and how do you keep up with it? How do you process it? The answer was, the first thing I do is I ask myself if it's true. Think about that, where you sit back and from being defensive, and you're like, I can see your body language as it bothers you. Is yeah, of course it does. This is talking about the brand is a...
And your baby.
Yeah, of course it's a baby, but you want to be great. You want to do the best you can, but you're never going to get great unless you do quality control, unless you sit back and watch tape and figure out what you could do better. The only thing that matters right now is that we do it in a team, we treat our team fairly, we treat our consumers and do the best we can with innovation for making the best products in the world, and doing it in a culture that everybody's really proud of. There's no room or acceptance for some of the things that have been said, and if there's a company that's been vetted, so opinions, and let's take everything at face level, maybe they're right. Well, we've been vetted. We've been through 6+ years of SEC investigation. We've lived through this process, and there's nothing but a really proud company who's ready to get on doing exactly what it's the best in the world at, and that's making the world's best performance apparel, footwear, and accessories for consumers to just make them just a little bit better, a little bit faster, jump a little higher, run a little faster.
When you hear some of the industry analysts that came out when you came back saying, how can this guy help fix the problems he helped create, you think what?
I think work on the brand that was created by a team of people that I was lucky enough to be able to pull together and pull through.
Yeah.
At the end of 2019, I stepped down from the CEO chair. I finally wanted the chance to be able to actually speak to my kids, watch my kids play sports, and we were just getting a lot of heat from a lot of different places. There was no pressure. This is totally voluntary in order to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm open. I want the best. I'm a fiduciary for our shareholders. I want the best thing for the company. If there's a better path that would work, I'd be more than in favor of it. And so that's when I said, okay, let's let somebody else do it, and I'll focus on family, I'll focus on watching my kids grow up. And I want to be helpful, I want to be added to the company, but being the CEO is very different from being a chairman. And making sure that people had the chance to be successful, that's incredibly important. And that may always be some he said, she said, but the only intent I would ever have is what's the best interest of the company.
Take me into that period and just what's that like?
It doesn't have a sense of, oh my gosh, how are they making this choice?
Yeah.
I really just want Under Armour to win.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I want to make sure that like that's clear. Now, people can question and saying, well, that's not helpful for it, or that's not additive to it. You know, in my time off, I put myself in basically a product role where it was, I stepped down at the end of 19. In March 16th of 2020, the pandemic hit. And so first thing I did is went to work on building the Under Armour sports mask. We ended up selling close to 20 million of these things, you know, which is one of the things that allowed us to stay in business, to keep our cash position high, to keep things running. You know, getting engaged in product is, it's my love, it's my passion, but like someone else running the day-to-day administrative is that I'm never opposed to someone else running I honestly, I'm not opposed to someone else running the company if we were doing really well. Right now, where we are, I'm the right person at the right time to lead this company. How long is that? A year, 2 years, 3 years? Like, we're gonna flip backs like cornhole style. We're not trying to throw, you know, mile-long passes. We're gonna keep everything very reasonable of just making little tosses and just make sure that every day is better than the one in front of it.
What would you like it to be?
I'd like it to be number one on every kid's Christmas list this holiday. I'd love it to be the earnings and the bottom line and the pricing power that would really come with this brand. I think we have an innovation story that is just like one of the best kept secrets in the world. I don't think we've done a great job telling the story of this brand. And there's so much good. And so the ability for someone, don't believe everything you read. But there's always truth within all of that. And that's one thing is what I said is that I'll read and evaluate everything and says like, is it true? Is there something we can do better there? Because I am a constant work in process. Like all of us, all we want to do is be the best versions of ourselves, but we're better than that. You know, this is a brand that has broken through to play at the highest levels of competition, competing with the biggest brands in sports. Now it has smaller brands coming after us as well. You know, we can argue or someone could say, or who's the best person for it? Well, I'm in the chair. And so I get the privilege to run this company. And I got a pretty good point of view with 30 years of experience in this industry and 15 of them as a public company CEO. That's pretty unique and something which I think will play to our benefit in years to come.
What do you think the best lesson is that you learned from kind of the tough period?
Forgive yourself, right? Stop trying to be perfect. You're not going to make everybody happy. The world's going to keep moving. It's going to move at a really fast rate. And so the speed at which we can never be satisfied. Complacency is one of the most dangerous things. It's the, you know, you want to be careful of internal fighting. You want to be careful of complacency. Is that this organization needs to think about what the next chapter looks like because we're not where we want to be right now. And the team that we're putting in place is one that understands that. And the team that's existing there isn't like we're getting, you know, get rid of the team. No, let's inspire the team. Let's empower the team. Let's give them the tools they need to be successful. That's what the next chapter for us looks like.
And in fairness, you're a competitive guy. You're probably never going to be where you want to be because you're always going to be looking towards how you know, drive stuff forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll feel some of that, but again, hopefully, you know, God forbid in this next chapter, I'm able to bring some wisdom into it. I've been in the same place-ish for 30 years. Right? It's not like I moved from 7 different jobs and you're trying to find other sources like, oh yeah, the Under Armour guy. So that's going to have its advantages and it's going to have its disadvantages. The advantages really outweigh the disadvantages a lot. And that doesn't mean that people aren't going to be able to take pop shots or say things about you, and some of which may be true in its own light. But it doesn't mean that the intention or the love or the respect, more importantly, just like the standard. So we've been through it. So like I've been tested.
Yeah.
Like I've been tested a lot. It doesn't mean like, oh, poor Kevin. I'm not expecting that. I'm not asking for that. But like, I don't know. I've earned the right to be in this chair today.